So that just shows you what kind of weapons they are. And I think we actually traded with the Chargers on that one. So that's awesome. Lad McConkey's not on our team. Yay. Our wide receiver curse continues. Oh my goodness, bro. It's not even Bill. We just can't draft him. And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Couch Potatoes. I'm your host, Jay Cubs, joined by Feisty as always, and we're ready to get into this slate, fresh off the Sunday slate again. Before we get into today, let's talk about last week, finished up. I think we've recapped most of the first half, so second half of Sunday Night Football last week, Cowboys-Bucks. We both had the Bucks, and boy, we had the announcer jinx this time because, man, the Cowboys came to play. It looked like their best game of the season, honestly. They weren't able to run the ball, but Cooper Rush was able to do his thing. Brandon Aubrey sending me straight to the fantasy championship with like 2 58-yard field goals. Just overall pretty good game for the Cowboys. It was like not great for the Bucks, but they did kind of get the ball back. They had a chance to go down, I believe, tie it up or go for the win. But then your boy, Deron Bland, dude, had himself a game. I think he had an interception, and then he forces a fumble on Rachaad White to get the win for the Cowboys. So now makes it interesting. We kind of were saying, think that this is the, Bucks division pretty much locked up, but Falcons beat them twice. They got the win last week, and now they're in first place, and they control their destiny, So we got the big game, Commanders Falcons for Sunday Night Football tonight, which we'll talk about and get into a little bit later. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this last week's Sunday Night Football win for your Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like it's gonna be one of those things. Are you gonna be happy about it because they won, or does it really matter? Like, right? It's like I almost want them to keep losing, so that Mike McCarthy gets fired.
Yeah.
But apparently, everybody wants him back. I don't know what they're doing. I do not own the Cowboys as a team anymore. I am just an NFL fan. So
Oh
like it's
no.
just it's crazy to me that they continue to want this guy back. Everybody keeps saying good things about him. I don't see it. Same thing with Dak. I don't see it. But hey, good
Mhm.
win for them. We both kind of like thought that the Bucks would run away with this. You said it was going to be a closer game. I was like, nope, Bucks by 10. But then they end up pulling through and winning this somehow. So yeah,
Crazy to hear you say that stuff after a win. And like I said, like maybe their best game of the season, but he's like, damn it, now Mike McCarthy's going to look good and we're going to want him back. And we all
yep.
know how you feel about that. So, man, interesting. Well, I don't think we could just call this the dog shit hour today, Feisty. It's just going to be the dog shit episode because this slate was so fucking bad, man. I couldn't believe it. And it starts off with Monday Night Football last week. Don't even need to get in this one. First shutout of the season. Packers absolutely kill the Saints 34-0. Look
Yeah.
completely dominant, bro. It was freaking just terrible. I didn't even, who watched that game besides maybe Packers fans, right? So pretty terrible day, but we had a great Christmas Day slate, right? Chiefs and Steelers, Ravens, Texans, like some awesome matchups. You can't
Yeah.
wait to, get up on Christmas morning, open your gifts, and then watch football, watch some good football all day. Not the case at all, bud. Oh my gosh. Chiefs they finally play a complete game. I mean, you can't say anything about this game. They looked good. There were a couple of calls here and there that were a little questionable, Chiefs type calls, but man, it was just a manhandling from start to finish, dude. And some history for Travis Kelce. He had himself a good day, probably his best day of the season. And he got his 1,000th reception all time and also a touchdown reception to make him the all-time leader in touchdowns scored. And so, yeah, they dominate. Chiefs get the 29-10 win. And, man, I want to talk about Joe Tooney a little bit because what he's done is just unheard of. So he's a left guard. He played left guard for the Patriots, won at least one Super Bowl, if not more. and has
Yeah.
won multiple Super Bowls with the Chiefs, man, as an all-pro, one of the best left guards in the business. And he moves out to left tackle a few weeks ago because of how much they're struggling, dude. And so, like, and it's not that easy, it's not just shifting. It's a whole different position. Like, this is unprecedented, and for him to do that for the team is really cool, like, to step up, because he's going to get exposed, and he kind of has a little bit here and there, but also he's he's faced some good pass rushers the past few weeks. Miles
Yeah.
Garrett, TJ Watt, stuff like, and no sacks allowed on those guys. So awesome for him to do something like that, man. And yeah, I love to see it. And Chiefs lock up the number 1 seed. They don't even have to play next week. So, and that means, like, the starters will have 24 days of rest because they'll have the bye. They're not going to play this week, dude. So almost a month to rest up, get healthy, and get prepared for this playoff run, dudes. How about them Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, realistically though, when you look at that game, I just felt like it was more of the Steelers just being really confused than in my opinion, I think than the Chiefs looking like a complete team. I think that yeah, this was their best game overall, and you say that with them being what they're
1.
15-1. So yeah, so I think it was just like more for me. The Steelers were just a little more confused of understanding, what their game plan was. It was good for them to have George Pickens back finally, but even then, it still just didn't do a whole lot for them. So, it just yeah, and then those big coats when they came out with them and gave it to Travis Kelsey and Mahomes. It was
George
just like
Pickens
it
doing George Pickens. He freaking is dabbing him up mid
weird.
interview.
It was weird.
Oh
He
my
just in the
gosh.
middle
I
of the
think
interview.
someone, I couldn't tell. I don't know if it's true, but like someone said that he said, "Come get me" or something like that. And I'm like, oh boy. But
Nah.
man, only George Pickens. And hey, same old Steelers, dude. They what were 10 and
Ooh.
3 just under a month ago. And here we go, Steelers. Here we go. But then we have the Eagles. Now, it's been tough teams: Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs.
Yeah,
But they lose by double digits in all 3 of those games. Don't look competitive at all. And, I get that they are good teams, but you're not even looking competitive. It's looking like the same thing, man. They start out hot. Mike Tomlin gets his above 500 record, and then after that, just they quit.
start
And
flattening.
like
Yeah.
it looks like an early first round exit on the way.
Yeah, and I think you really like it made a good point there. You give Mike McDaniel so much shiz for not playing really well against good teams, but this is the case for it too, where they're struggling against big teams that they're going to be competing in the playoffs against. So it kind of makes you question how their team has been doing realistically this year. Like we were all cheering for them in a way, not really, but like we were hoping that they would do well, but then all of a sudden now they are starting to slip up, and it's not the defense; it's always
Nope.
been their offense. So
Yeah, tough, man. And it gets even worse for them on Christmas Day because we had the Texans Ravens game. Now, before we get into the game, a couple of news things. So we talked about it last week. Tank Dell's gruesome injury,
yeah,
obviously very bad. He had dislocated knee and ACL tear, so going to be a long road to recovery. And wishing him, speedy recovery there. That was definitely scary, but the Texans, they went up and picked up Deontay Johnson. So someone actually picked him up, man. I mean, they're pretty desperate. I mean, they, down your 2 of your 3 best wide receivers and gonna need something. So hopefully he can kind of get his act together and, help them out on a playoff run because looks like they're gonna need it. Boy, talk about another dog shit game. And it was even worse, man. Ravens absolutely killed the Texans. Derrick Henry, the only person to score for the Texans, actually on a safety, 31-2. I don't know if that's the fact that you lost 31-2. I think is even more hilarious than just
yeah,
getting shut out. Like, what a
yeah,
score, you know what I mean? And man, yeah, Ravens just cooking. Derrick Henry does his thing, even though he did get the safety after that really good game. Lamar, historic performance, and he has a 50-yard, 48-yard rushing touchdown in this game. And during that run, he became the all-time leader, passing Michael Vick's record for rushing yards by a quarterback, and he's barely just getting started. You know what I mean? And hey, I know we said it was locked up, but I don't think it's locked up anymore, man. Lamar's making a great run here, and he might get his third MVP, bro. We've talked about it. He's having his best season, and he just continues to impress.
This game is just, I think, more of the Ravens doing really well and what they've been able to do um, with the talent they have. It's really realistic and more on what Texans has not been able to do. CJ Stroud, I don't know if you saw, he ended up getting booed in this game. Like,
Wow.
there's a lot of like just it just feels like the Texans have completely lost control, and it starts with CJ Stroud. And he just does not look like the same quarterback that he was that rookie year. I know there's the whole, sophomore slump or whatever, but if he was able to do what he was doing as a freaking rookie, I just don't know what's going on this year. I know that they can't keep their receivers healthy, and that's why you go get a garbage player like Dante Johnson, and hopefully he doesn't create any issues for you guys in their locker room. But realistically, they are not the same team, and I just do not see them making a big push in this playoffs where how many teams are so stacked now and how many
Hmm.
teams are doing really well. I just do not see them competing against them, right? And so, and then you have Derrick Henry and Miss like King Henry, and you have Lamar just doing their thing, continue to dominate and continue to build that. The resume that they've put together this year is insane for me. Like, and I've said it over and over again. It's insane that Lamar might end up finishing second, the MVP, even though he's having his best season. But that's thanks to King Henry and the numbers he's putting up this year. So the Ravens
Yeah.
are going to continue to do their thing, and I think that they're going to make a big push, and they have a chance to win that division. But at the same
Yep.
time, I just feel like it's really the Texans are just confused right now, and I don't know what they're doing, and I don't think anybody else does. So
No.
typical Texas teams.
Something runs in the water down there, but yeah, man, the Ravens. So they took over the division lead now, and we just got the one game left. So looking like the Ravens can lock this up. But man, I don't know. Like the only team, as far as the Texans, like you say, I'd talk about the other team that we just talked about that's been struggling as of late, the Steelers. If you look at anybody else, man, I'm picking probably anybody else that they'll face. I'd take the
Yeah.
Chargers and Broncos and Ravens if they ended up getting the fifth seed, losing the division to beat the Texans right now. Like you said, man, it's not looking good. CJ Stroud is struggling, man. He's getting cooked with the memes right now. I know that everybody's like looking at the moment when he kind of like big timed Caleb Williams, as they say after the game, is like keep going, whatever, and his numbers are like much worse than Caleb Williams since that moment. But man, I still believe in him. I think he's going to come back, but I don't know if this is their season, the injuries they've had and everything. And
Yeah.
Joe Mixon, on the other hand, dude, I think you've had him
He's
in
struggling
fantasy all
too.
year, man. He has been in the play. I saw his playoff numbers are horrendous. Like I think 8 points or less in every single game. So can't run the ball and you have no weapons. It's looking tough, man. So
Yup.
all right, well, so yeah, Christmas. I hope everybody had a good Christmas. If you based it solely off your NFL experience, you probably didn't. I don't know if Santa just thought we were all naughty this year and gave us some cold type games, but hey, we had Thursday night football the next day. All right, we have a chance. Seahawks versus Bears. Oh my god, this was terrible, dude. I only watched it for Zach Charbonnet because he was on my fantasy team. Kenneth Walker out in this game, but he's not able to get much going. Nor is anybody. 6-3, bro. Back to another terrible Thursday night football game. This was just bad football all around. It wasn't even good defense. It was just bad. It was all just bad. Nobody could move the ball at all. And yeah, Seahawks get the win though, much needed to stay in the race for the NFC West title. But man, this fucking sucked.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears continue to suck, and that game even was just as bad as their whole season. Um, I really don't have a whole lot to say, just how bad it was. Like, what can you even really realistically say went really well from just the Seahawks winning a win and continue to have that playoff push? But yeah, this was a terrible game by both teams. Nobody looked good. And yeah,
Yeah, it's
Thursday nights,
terrible.
man.
Thursday nights. Oh my goodness. And I think that was the last one of the year too. Cause I don't know. I think the last regular season week, they just have a couple games on Saturday and then everything's on Sunday. Some news though about this, these teams, former head coach, Pete Carroll of the Seahawks apparently has expressed some interest in the head coaching job in Chicago. So that'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see. There's going to be a lot of candidates out there, and he's been very open about wanting to get into coaching. So that'll be interesting to see. And then we have a Saturday slate with multiple teams that have playoff implications on the line. So we're bound to have a good Saturday, right? Right? Oh boy. That's right. Let's talk about the Patriots and the Chargers. Oh man, before I get depressed and talk about this game, I love to see again, just gonna talk up Drake May. I almost as impressed, if not as impressed. The way he handles himself off the field versus how he plays on the field. And you all know how I feel about him on the field, but in his post game press conference last year, he said that all the narratives around Gerard Mayo and his head coach and if he should be fired and everything are BS. And the coaches are coaching their ass off. And he said he's proud to be a part of this team and proud to be a Patriot. So love to hear that from my boy. And yeah, hopefully, obviously he stays healthy as our future going forward because that's a quarterback you want in your locker room. But yeah, this I don't know, man. I can't just give it to. I thought it would be. I thought it would be the dog
Oh,
shit performance of the week, but we have plenty, so we'll have to choose from them. Man, 40-7. I'll just say was the final score, dude. It was absolutely terrible from the start. We couldn't get any pressure on Herbert. He was slicing and dicing us just all down the field. My I was happy and never celebrated opposing team's touchdown so hard, but my boy Lad McConkey in the fantasy championship for me, he had himself a day, 2 tutties, almost 100 yards on the day. Saw a stat that he had more yards in this game alone than Jalen Polk, the bum himself, and Javon Baker, so our second and fourth round wide receivers. McConkey had more yards in this game, which was 94, than they have all season combined.
yikes.
So that just shows you what kind of weapons they are. And I think we actually traded with the Chargers on that one. So that's awesome. Lad McConkey's not on our team. Yay! Our wide receiver curse continues. Oh my goodness, bro! It's not even Bill. We just can't draft him. But on the flip side, like I said, McConkey went off. Herbert did his thing. J.K. Dobbins was back in this game. He got a touchdown, came back, and they needed him. You can tell, that he's their clear number one back, and they missed
Yeah.
him when he was out these 4 weeks. So good to get him back right before the playoffs. And speaking of, they clinched it, man. Chargers are in the playoffs with this win. So good for them. I'm excited to see them in the playoffs. I think that they have a legit chance to upset some teams. So, and then, hey, one thing that I am happy about from this game, I'm not the only one that's talking shit on Gerard Mayo. Fire Mayo chants rained down in New England at the game, and it's tough look. Players came out and defended him. I get they got to do that, but yeah, Patriots fans not happy with Gerard Mayo right now. But yeah, like I said, on flip side, Chargers looking up.
Well, I mean, here's the thing though. He's a first year coach, so it's kind of always hard. And this is realistically his first head coach anyway, too. So it's not like he has any experience to really pull from. So I just feel like this is a little too soon to be like, oh, fire him. Especially, it takes about 3 years before you really settle into a program or a franchise. There's certain coaches like Jim Harbaugh that can do it within just the first season, sure, but that's realistically he has experience from college. He's been in the NFL before, so like it's just different. And I just feel like that's where you got to be patient. Um, we've been patient with Jason Garrett for 8 years, and he should have been gone in three. Same thing with Mr. McCarthy, and so it's realistically it's always hard for a team to move on from a coach like that. Um, and then like you said, it's good that Drake Mays continues to show up his leadership and continues to be the guy that you want in your locker room and leading that team. And the Chargers they're bolting up right now. They're continuing to get better, and now that they have Mr. Dobbins back, it's perfect for them. Like that's where they were missing, and Justin Herbert looks really comfortable. Hey, and you guys have the number one pick. If you need a receiver and know
Oh,
a Heisman winner,
no,
that's
no,
looking to be the number one
no.
pick.
Like I say, we trade him back, and then we, get a lineman. If you're gonna listen, New England, we need a line because yes, that offensive line was absolutely horrendous. Yet again, same shit, different day. But yeah, not looking good. Like you said, some interesting things happen in the NFL this week, and yes, Patriots primed for the number one pick. All they got to do is lose to the Bills next week. So,
That shouldn't be that hard,
oh
right?
boy, in Buffalo, I think too. Or no, actually. This
Might
one's
be
in
in
New
Buff.
England. This one's in New England,
Yeah.
but all right. Well, let's move along. Let's go to another dog shit game, and this was the Rams and Cardinals. It was just kind of that similar to that 12-6 performance in Thursday night football against the Niners a few weeks ago. It was 13-9, just kind of not a lot. Puka does his thing. I think he had over 120 yards or something, but
Yeah.
the low scoring game. Shout out to Trey McBride for finally getting his first touchdown of the season. Remember talking about that last week, learning about the fact that he hadn't had a touchdown all season was wild. Got it there, finally got that off the hump, but it was not enough as Kyler Murray throws a pick in the back of the end zone. Crazy, crazy catch to seal the deal for the Rams, and they get the win, stay atop of the NFC West.
I mean, always know and guarantee that when the game's on the line, some quarterbacks just loved. And no, I'm just kidding. This was unfortunate, right? Like I feel like Kyler Murray hasn't been as clutch as he should be for his team, but like this is kind of one of those like, especially where it's a diving interception. It was just a lot of skill that took, and I feel bad for him to have to end it that way. But the Cardinals have been dog shit
Oh, shit.
all season, right? So it's there's no difference there, and for them to make the Rams look really good is kind of interesting. And a side note, Puka was more interested in the BYU game. I don't know if you saw that.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, he was more interested in the BYU bowl game than he was at the interview or whatever he was doing. Um, so he was like asking what the score was. Hey, what's the score? What's the score? So, but yeah, it was a terrible game, and it just does not look good for the Cardinals because they continue to just slip every year. So,
Yeah, and the Rams looking like they can't score against their division, I guess, but they can score against anybody else. But yeah, all righty. Now let's move along. I know you had yourself a good week last week, buddy. You had the Eagles, Niners losing and the Cowboys winning. Like you say, your perfect week, but yeah, short lived there, buddy. About the same fucking thing as my Patriots against the Chargers, man. Oh my God. I'll let you take this one because it's your team.
dog shit team franchise game, whatever you want to call it.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness, man. It was terrible. And see some news. The Cowboys ended up shutting down CD for the season. Like you said last week, they were officially eliminated from the playoffs. He's been dealing with that shoulder injury all season, been playing through it. So, like, respect to him for doing that. But yeah, it makes sense to shut him down, rest up. And I don't know do you know he's getting surgery, right? I
yeah,
believe on the shoulders.
yeah.
So, get that process started a little bit earlier. But, and then another big news, someone out, Jalen Hurts. So he got that concussion last week, not able to pass protocol. So it's the Kenny Pickett show. And then Kenny Pickett goes down in this game. So Kenny Pickett, Jim Plunkett, Christmas trinket does not matter who's playing at QB against the Cowboys, bro, because the Eagles just dominated. I don't even know the guy's name who came in for him, but he did good. He threw a touchdown pass. I don't know if you saw AJ Brown threw the ball away. It was his first touchdown
Oh
pass,
yeah,
but
he had to go.
the fan gave it back, and then he got AJ Brown's signed jersey. So great trade there. And then, of course, got to talk about our boy Saquon had himself another great day. Broke into the 2,000-yard club. So congrats to him. He only is 101 yards away from the NFL record from Eric Dickerson, who came out and said he does not want Saquon to get it. He openly, a lot of people, kind of come out and say, like, oh, yeah, records are meant to be broken. I'm rooting for him, whatever. Not Eric Dickerson, man. He said, nah, fuck that. I want to be the all time leading rusher. Hey, I respect that, man. Like, that's your thing. You did it. And he also did it in 16 games. So, like, yeah, that'll always be a thing. But rooting for Saquon to get that record next week, 101 yards, not that impossible. I think he had 160 in this one. So, yeah, talk about a dog shit performance. The Eagles are flying again. I'm sure you heard a good bit from your favorite Eagles fan. But man, 41-7, and they clinch the NFC East. So now, for 20 straight years, no repeat winners in that NFC East,
Nope.
dude. Wild.
Nope. Yeah, I mean, she hasn't texted me yet. She hasn't said anything on but I guess I have to eat my words, so fly eagles fly. Fly eagles fly. Just kidding. I mean, realistically, I think that I was hoping this game would go the way it went, because I really want McCarthy fired. And the funny thing is, players are already coming out and saying, "Oh, like the other person that should be fired, like Dak." He says that Mike McCarthy has shown resilience this season, and he backs him up. Okay, okay, you and him can go start a
Okay.
new team somewhere else, man. I like I said, I didn't think that it was gonna be this bad of a score, but like I was really hoping that the Eagles would just kill us and we would lose. Because I want McCarthy fired and I want them to just start new, man. Something needs to happen over there. Some changes need to happen. But yeah, unfortunate for Jalen Hurts to be out again. Like I said last week in my making fun of them video, that where's your quarterback? But it's unfortunate. Hopefully he's good to go. I will always hate the Eagles no matter what. So there's not a whole lot of good things I could say to them. Um, except fly Eagles fly.
Yeah, and they're flying, man. And hey, maybe it'll end up being good. Jalen Hurts be a little bit rested. He's taking some shots and everything this season. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, you clinch the division. Don't even look like you need him now. It definitely, it's crazy, but you could still see it. Like Jalen Hurts obviously makes that team so much better, even though they dominated the Cowboys. They
Yeah,
definitely are going to
100%.
need him for the long run.
Well,
So,
when you have Mr. Quad playing quad. He's been the brightest. I truly think he's been the brightest part of this whole offense.
oh yeah.
For the Giants, I will never ever forgive them for doing that. And I think if you're a Giants fan, you should probably throw eggs at that executive's office and his car and his house. Trading your a good running back who has something to prove to your division rivals, that just doesn't
Just letting him walk,
legitimately does
man.
not make sense to me. That's literally saying Nike giving up what their best athletes to Adidas and saying, "Here you go." Like it just doesn't make sense. That's a
We don't
lot of
want to pay
sales
you
you're losing.
anymore. It's terrible.
Yeah,
And
like
like we said, he wanted to be there. They tried to big time him. There's the video in Hard Knocks, like we said, where the GM's laughing about it. And yeah, terrible look, terrible look. And yeah, I know you hate to see those Eagles dominate, especially against your team. But like you said, maybe you'll get your wish. But let's raise your spirits up, bud. Our favorite part of the dog shit hour every week is the
Jets, Jets, suck.
boy, do they.
Ooh.
Man, another 40 burger, another blowout. It was 40-0 at one point. Bills are absolutely destroying them. Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things. And yeah, the game was so out of hand that they benched both quarterbacks in the fourth quarter. There was no point in playing either one of them. Your boy Aaron Rodgers on the bench, and because he could not get anything going for the Jets. But then Tyrod Taylor comes in and freaking just lights it up, buddy, and scores two straight touchdown drives. So, man, maybe they should have been rolling with Tyrod Taylor this whole season. I bet you would agree with that.
I just think that summer retreat is not Working out.
The what's it?
Ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha, Alaska.
Alaska. It sounds like he needs to take a bigger dose because he is struggling, man. Aaron Rodgers, I've said this the whole season, needs to retire. It's done. That era of quarterbacks is just no longer there. The Jets, if they're smart, they are going to maybe keep him one more year, but I would definitely draft a quarterback so that he can at least learn from Aaron Rodgers. The way he knows the game is different, right? But he's struggling this season, and so last time a quarterback sat right behind quarterback, last time a quarterback sat behind Aaron Rodgers, look where he's at right now with Green Bay,
Hmm.
right? So it's like realistically, he's a good mentor to have. But this is definitely not what New York wanted, and we've said this. Wesley said this at the beginning. This is, and you've said it all season too. The things, the moves that they made, did not make them better by
No,
any means. So Jets
not
suck,
at all.
suck, suck.
They sure do, man. And he has come out and said that he would be open to mentoring a young quarterback. So
Yeah.
that's probably a great, thing for them to look at and look at one of these quarterbacks coming through. And you could definitely see, I can definitely see a guy, maybe Cam Ward, going down to the Jets and, being mentored by him. I know Shador's probably ready to start, but I don't know if he'd fall that low. I don't think he would, but definitely some guys that could benefit from Aaron Rodgers. Guy that might be more done with Aaron Rodgers than you. This came out today from Ian Rappaport. So NFL Insider, Garrett Wilson may request a trade if Rodgers comes back to the Jets, bro. He ain't going mad dummy, yo. He wants to go mad dummy the hell out of there is what he wants to do. And that's so wild to hear, man.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, right? Like it's just I think it's become the Aaron Rodgers and Devonte Adams show. And even though Devonte Adams is struggling, why would you not want to keep a player like Garrett Wilson and feed him the ball where he's gonna have more explosive routes and stuff like that and get him more involved in the offense. And he's come out multiple times this year since they traded for Devonte Adams. I'm not getting involved enough.
Mhm,
He has like
mhm.
4 catches or 4 targets for like 50 yards or whatever. So he's able to put up the numbers, but man, I that would be a big loss. And I know some teams that are more than willing to give up everything for a Super Bowl run. So hopefully he does not end up being on one of those crazy teams that are already stacked for next year because that's a big loss for the Jets. And I would not be surprised if that ends up happening.
Hey, maybe the Pats can have a Saquon type esque thing happen, and he can come over. You'll get plenty of targets from Drake May. I promise you that. There ain't a wide receiver within 100 miles of that building that could try to compete with your targets. So,
Bro,
yeah.
I truly think that that would be actually a really good fit. Because you guys want to trade back and you can give the Jets the number one pick, go get whoever you want,
Hmm.
and then they get Garrett Wilson, and or you guys get Garrett Wilson and still get to pick you get a good receiver out of it, and later down the road you can with that later pick you can go get your old line that you want. So I
Yes, sir.
realistically think that would be a really really good trade if it were to happen, but I doubt that New York would be trading to the Pats. So
No, like you said, but hey, it's happened. We saw it in the NFC, so maybe it can happen in the
idiots,
AFC East. All right,
idiot.
let's move along. Let's go to another dog shit performance and a game. Man, they escaped this hour for a long time, the Panthers, but they came
Back to
back into it real quick.
it.
Bucks bounced back from that loss to your Cowboys in a huge way, beat them 48-14. I mean, Baker was slicing and dicing them. I think he had his fourth game of 4 touchdowns or more this season. Bucky Irvin, your former Oregon Duck, was going off, and
Yep.
their defense was balling. And yeah, just overall complete dominating win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Much needed as they try to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's their push right now is they've made some mistakes the last couple of games, and I think right now they're just trying to push for it. And good for Bucky Irving, man. He looks like he's a strong, bright side for this team this year, and him getting that number one running back position has been really good for them. Um, and the Panthers, man, Panthers right back to where they belong. They gave
Mhm.
us some hope that maybe they were turning things around and Bryce Young was looking good, but some dogs are just dog
Yeah, dog
shit.
shit. Yes, sir. And let's continue the dog shit train. Titans, Jaguars, the game. I keep saying this every week. Who's actually watching this game? I mean, I had it on because it was forced to, man. This slate was so bad this morning. I pulled up my YouTube TV and the four games are like Giants, Colts, Jaguars, Titans, Raiders, Saints, and I can't the other game, but I'm like, are you serious right now? Like after the week we've already had leading up to this Sunday, but yeah, this was a dog shit game by two dog shit teams, and the Jaguars get the win. So they win 20-13. They were both 3-12 going into it. So now the Titans have a better draft pick. And yeah, maybe looking at a quarterback there as well. But then, like I said, another one of those dog shit games as the Raiders and Saints. Raiders get another win, so I think that's two in a row for them, building some momentum here towards the end of the season. 25-10. Saints look like the same old Saints. At least they scored 10 more points than they did on Monday. But want to shout out, dude, man, tight end from Georgia, Brock Bowers. Holy shit, dude! I think that
Yeah.
I, we haven't talked about. I don't think we've talked about him almost at all this season, just because the Raiders have been such dog shit. But dude is balling, and I think really could you can make an argument that this guy should be the rookie of the year. I mean, he is putting up historic numbers. He just broke Puka's record for most receptions in a season, and then broke Mike Ditka's record for rookie tight end yards, and then also like set the franchise records in receptions and yards and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, dude's a baller, man. They definitely hit with that. I think he was like the 13th pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning of the season when Omar actually picked him up, I was like, why are you picking him up? But realistically now I see that he's just a big target, dude. He's very versatile player. He understands his route running really well. He continues to
He
every
looks like a wide receiver out
yeah,
there, man.
yeah, and every week he's just gone better, and we just have not shined the light on him because the Raiders just suck. So, but this has been a big bright spot for them for the Raiders, and I think if they end up getting Shador Sanders, that's going to be a weapon that he's going to be able to use very well, and so good for him and his accomplishments this season. But I just think that this is just the start of it. I think he's going to have some really, really good seasons to come if he can continue to stay healthy because
Hmm.
he's still, like I said, a rookie to be able to do the numbers he's doing. You can only
He's
hope that
insane, man. Yeah, I
sophomore
think his
slump doesn't
future's
happen.
bright for sure. But man, those teams, especially the Saints lately, a dog shit. And moving on to another dog shit team that we've talked about all season, the New York Football Giants.
Yep.
Remember, you said earlier the Pats have the number one pick, and that is because the Colts pulled off one of the biggest choke jobs of the season, bro. You still are alive for the playoffs, and the one thing you got to do that day is beat the New York Giants. Like,
Yep.
come on, how can it get any easier? But you lose, and not only do you lose, but you let Drew Lock and the New York Giants put 45 on your head, bro. Oh my goodness. One thing to note is Anthony Richardson was out for this game.
Yeah.
Definitely would have been a totally different game. Joe Flacco, they put up points. They scored 33, but throwing interceptions kind of like he does, man. And yeah, Giants kind of ended up screwing themselves, man, because they no longer have that number one pick. But their number one pick from this year, Malik Neighbors, he had himself a day, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he's also breaking some records too. So definitely a bright spot, maybe the only bright spot in New York, but at least not on this day because New York gets the insane upset over the Colts and eliminate them from the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean the big thing on this for me too is that um the Giants still can get a really good quarterback from the draft because we're gonna have so many talented quarterbacks this year. From the draft, which is almost every year you always have five really solid quarterbacks, and not every team needs the quarterback. So
Yeah.
they have a chance at it, but Colts. Colts, man. Not a whole lot to say there. You
How do
definitely
you
have a chance, but then you end up smoking it this bad. Yeah. I mean, you kind of deserve that one, especially when you're losing against garbage Giants. I could freaking beat the Giants with one of my hands tied to my back. So,
Fuck, man, that's terrible, dude. And yeah, I think it'll put, like I said, the Pats in a very good position, man, because you have a lot of desperate teams out there that need a quarterback, and
yeah,
but that's the thing for New York now. You got to be aggressive, probably, and if you have the two pick, you're probably going to have to give up even more than that, and to get a quarterback, if you're afraid, the Jets, the Titans, the Raiders, try to get that number one pick. So that's going to be interesting to see, man. Hopefully the Patriots can just pull off the loss, please stay at the number one pick, and then yeah, we'll have to see what kind of haul we can possibly get. So
yeah.
all righty, let's move along to the last game of the dog shit hour, man. I told you there it was a dog shit week. Hopefully week 18 will provide us with a little more good matchups as well as tonight and tomorrow night. But our favorite, our other favorite, the dog pound, Cleveland Browns. Boy, yeah, another dog shit game. Just say 20-3 for the Dolphins, who were without Tua. So one of their best games, they scored 20 points. So pretty good for them without Tua. Really was just out of hand from the get go. Browns never able to really get the ball moving. Um, yeah, just overall pretty terrible. But some news from them. So they've committed to Deshaun Watson for next year. Now we know that they're already pretty much locked up. I mean, this game is or this contract is, one of the most ridiculous ones in NFL history, if not the most ridiculous one. But they did restructure his deal. So I think what happens is they added more voidable years to his deal to basically push out the cap hits that they're going to end up taking. But does show commitment that they're going to ride with him next season, and yeah, going to continue to be dog shit, man, because one, this dude can't stay healthy, and two, he fucking sucks at football. So sucks for the Browns, man.
I mean, it's just Browns doing Browns things. They will never be a successful franchise, just like another franchise that we know. But yeah, that this doesn't make sense to me. That contract never made sense to anybody. But hey, maybe next year he figures out. He starts staking Ashwagandha in Alaska, and boom! Next thing you know, he's looking like an MVP candidate, which will never happen. But um, hopefully, it happens
Jeez,
for
man.
them.
That fall off and just the fact that I don't even think he tries anymore either. But the fall
Yeah,
off between Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, and Cleveland
makes no
Browns,
sense,
Deshaun
bro.
needs to be studied, man, because he was electrifying, man. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the league, and now look at him, man. So boy, and yeah, DTR. I know that you're gonna have less picks from him, but he's still gonna give you some than Jameis Winston. But I get that you had to kind of bench Jameis, but I still think this is a tight game. Jameis is gonna be able to move the ball down the field. Now he might have thrown a touchdown or two to the Dolphins, but I think
Yeah,
he still gives you a better chance to win. But yeah, Miami still lurking, so they're the last team alive, I believe. Well, the Bengals are still alive too. So when it comes to that last AFC spot, like I said earlier, Chiefs, they've locked up that number one seed. They're resting their starters, right? So, and they play the Broncos next week. So you'd assume all Broncos have to do is win that game and they're in. So you'd assume that'll happen. But let's say something crazy happens. Carson Wentz just goes nuclear and kills the Broncos or beats the Broncos. If they lose and Miami wins, Miami's in. And then if both the Broncos and Miami lose next week and Miami plays New York, the Jets, then the Bengals will make it in. So,
right.
man, it'll be interesting. You'd think that the Broncos have this in play though. So, we'll have to see how that ends up. And speaking of them, we're out of it, buddy. We did it. Okay, the dog shit games are done. We have two games to talk about that didn't belong in this hour. Now let's travel back to Saturday. This was the one good game that was on Saturday, man. Broncos versus Bengals. Holy hell, like this looked like a playoff game from start to finish, man. It was back and forth. T. Higgins had himself a day. Man, he is going to look so good in this red and blue, baby. Pay him whatever you need to, New England, because this dude's a baller. what do you have, 11 receptions, I think, for 140 yards, 3 touchdowns, hat trick for him. So definitely went off. Then the end of this game, man, it was interesting. So they have the ball, the Bengals do. I think it's tie game, and they are going to be able to run out the clock. At least most of it. I think there would be like 15, 20 seconds left if they did.
Yeah.
But they ended up, Chase Brown actually ran it almost all the way in and then injures himself trying to stop so he doesn't score a touchdown. And so that gives the Denver free timeout
No,
basically,
yeah.
and they only had one of them left. So that was wild. And then Joe Burrow sneaks it in for a touchdown on the very next play. I mean, you really would be better off to just knee it, force Denver to use their last timeout, and hell, they're going to have to pull off some miracle, with 15 seconds left to be able to win this game or at least tie it. But no, they give them the ball with like a minute. I think it was like a minute 24 left, and they kept their timeout. And you know what the Broncos did with that? Said thank you very much. Went right down the field, and Marvin Mims had maybe the play of the week with that touchdown catch that he had. That and that interception, man, were just crazy. He mossed 2 dudes and is able to hold on to the ball despite one of them like having his arm in there trying to rip it loose. But it is ruled a touchdown. We go to overtime. And Joe Burrow, despite his head coach trying to lose the game, his defense trying to lose the game for him, Joe Burrow finds a way to get the win in overtime and keep their playoff hopes alive. Like we went through earlier, we went through the scenarios with them, so they
Yeah.
are still in the hunt. Need a Broncos loss, but this definitely helps. And yeah, Joey B does Joey B things, man. I think it was his 8th straight game or 9th straight game with 3+ touchdowns. It's an NFL record. If this team wasn't so bad, man, I think we're talking about how good Lamar is. We're talking about how good Josh Allen is. It would be his MVP if his team was, near the top of the AFC standings. But unfortunately, their defense is dog shit. And yeah, but they're able to sneak away with this win, man. What'd you think of this game?
Yeah. The Bengals have struggled so much this season that it just does not make sense because of how well Joe Burrow's been able to play. You talk about the whole Jamar Chase as well too, who's been having issues left and right with the team, but Joe Burrow, man, he continues to just be locked in and continues to do his thing. For them to lose T. Higgins, it's going to be a big loss. He even made a comment, I guess, after the game, and was like, he's just unsure about his future. He said that might have been my last home game in this
Really?
jersey. So I mean, it's a good opportunity for the
Hope
Pats to get
so.
2 good receivers. Imagine.
Imagine that, baby.
So I mean, if it does happen, good for them. But that would be a huge loss for them. And the Broncos, man, I've talked about this over and over again. Bo Nix looks good, continues to get better, continues to put a case for why he should be a contender for that Rookie of the Year. And their destiny is kind of one of those things that nobody really thought that they were gonna have the season that they're having, and still be in the hunt for the playoffs. Um, but I'm rooting for the Broncos just because of my boy Bo Nix and continue that let's go quack quack thing.
Yes,
So
sir.
but hopefully it ends up going well for them and that they may be able to pull it through. And sorry, Bengals, maybe you should have started out better at the beginning of the season, or actually got a good team put together on the defensive side to help out Joe Burrow a little bit more.
1000%, man. I know that it probably any other team would be a little worried about this Bengals team, especially with what Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. I mean, he had a great game too. I think he had over 100 yards, like 12 catches or something, but just like a little under his kind of craziness that he does. And T. Higgins taking most of the spotlight there, but he still goes off. So I know that would be scary for any team to see in the playoffs. And I bet the Chiefs are like, yeah, we're okay letting the Broncos win this game, make sure that since he stays out. But yeah, we'll have to see. And then moving on to the last game before we finished out this NFL slate before Sunday Night Football, we had the Packers Vikings. And man, what a game in that NFC North. It's been so crazy. And I thought the way it started out, man, I thought that we'd have to put the Packers in the dog shit hour
Yeah.
because it was just all Vikings early, man. They were dominating. They led 13-3 at the half, and really in control for most of it, but Packers find a way to come back, man. They score 2 touchdowns in the fourth, have a chance. I think they scored their second touchdown with like 2:18 left, something like that. So they got all 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning, but Vikings able to pick up enough first downs, run out the clock, and get a much needed win, keep them alive for still the division in the NFC North and that number 1 seed overall. And yeah, Packers drop another one to a really good team. So that means they are now swept by the Lions. They are swept by the Vikings this season. Also had that loss to the Eagles, so they drop. But yeah, what a great ending to that game, and ended up looking really good. I did see Sam Darnold. I think he had his career high in passing yards, so he had himself another great day. Kevin O'Connell's just calling up a great game yet again. QB whisperer, whatever you want to call him, and man, still, I think we're starting to talk about him more. But these Vikings, they are dangerous, man, and it's not the Lions, it's not the Eagles run away for the conference, dude. These Vikings are the
Yeah.
real deal.
No, and it seems like it's the year of just underdogs coming out, right? Besides the Eagles, because the Eagles had a good team the season before. They just made some terrible coachable decisions and stuff. But the Vikings have like continued to do really well. And for me, especially, I've been really impressed and shocked with the way they've been able to do it, especially with, the departure of Mr. What do you call him? Walmart Kurt
Kirko
Cobain.
Walmart chains,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I thought after that they would be really realistically hitting a restart and that they were just committed to Jefferson and that they were going to build around him, but they haven't lost the beat. Like, Sam Darnold has come in and they've just actually announced that they're committed to him. If they can bring him back, then they'll bring
Did
him
they?
back. So, like, that's
Interesting.
a huge thing for them. And for them to make this run to even get the number 1 seed, it realistically is really the Lions, the Eagles, the Vikings that this playoffs is going to have to go through, and one of those teams should realistically make it to the the Super Bowl. So,
Hmm.
and I think that the Packers, I would like to say I feel bad for them, but they're also another team. I'm just like, after the 2 first round losses to them, I just don't feel bad for them at all. But they've started out really well, and then it seems like every time they play against a really good team,
Yep.
once again, you talked about that Mike
Hmm.
McDaniels, they are
Dude.
continue to struggle.
Oh, never
So
mind. Their head coach is Matt. I was gonna say it's something
yeah.
about Mike and not being able to beat good teams, but yeah,
Something about
same
the
teams.
M's anyway.
There you go, man. But yeah, Vikings real deal, ninth straight win. And guess who they play last week of the season? The Detroit Lions,
Lions,
dude.
yeah.
So that is going to be so fun. So Lions play
March.
the Niners tomorrow. So if they get that win, then the both teams I think would be, what is it, 15 and 2, 14 and 2. And yeah, number 1 seed on the line for whoever wins that game, dude. So you think Detroit can get that win, but we'll have to see. I think it's in San Francisco. So not definitely not for sure win for them. They got to go down and perform. But yeah, I'm excited to see that matchup next week. And then yeah, let's finish it out. Let's get into our picks. So I picked the Colts as my lock, unfortunately, man. So I lose the 5 points there. First time in a while for me. And then probably the dumbest pick I've made all year, the Jets. I took their 9.5 points as underdogs, not even close. So talk
Hey,
about a dog shit decision there. I should have known better, but I don't know. So I saw the points. I thought maybe a divisional game, but nah,
you were
not even
ahead by
close.
a lot, and he's like, you know what?
I'm just
Send
going to
it.
get a little cocky here and
Send
go
it.
for it. But thank God for the Philadelphia Eagles keeping it at least a 0 point week for me, getting the win there. So that was much needed there to not make it an embarrassing week for me. And then Wes, so his lock was the Bills over the Jets. So he made the right call there. And then he still has 2 games left. Actually, he picked Sunday night and Monday night. He picked the Falcons as his underdog, and then the Lions as his random. So we'll have to see how those turn out. But what about your week, bud? How did your picks go?
Solid week. Continue to do, what I'm doing. Just kidding. But my lock was the Chargers against the Patriots. I had a feeling that the Chargers were gonna shiz on your freaking Pats, and they did. So I got my 3 points there. My underdog were the Broncos. Felt the Ducks connection, but it did not work out too well. Mr. Joe Burrow is just too calm, collective, and just does what he needs to do. So I get 0 points there. And then my random were the Bucks over the Panthers, and I got my 5 points there. So a solid of 8 points for me this week.
There you go, man. And hey, it's not over, bud. You are looks like 10.5 points behind me. So you have a chance, if I have another bad week and you have yourself a perfect week, like you've had a good run here. It is not over. I'm at 133 points. You're at 122 and a half. Wes at 104 and a half. But like I said, still need those 2 games, so a little different there.
Yeah.
Then yeah, we just will have to recap Sunday Night Football, which is kicking off any minute now. So let's get our picks in for that. Commanders, Falcons, Michael Penix Jr. still the quarterback. Jaden Daniels. They faced off, I believe. No, maybe they never did face off in college. I can't remember, but 2 rookie quarterbacks, Heisman winner, and a guy that went to the national championship. So yeah, it'll only be Penix's second game, but I'm definitely going to ride with the Commanders in this one. I believe it's the Commanders at home, and they definitely need to continue to win. They have not locked up a playoff spot yet. I did see this. They are, I think if they lose their next 2 games, so if they lose this game and then next week, then the Bucks can get in as a wild
Yeah.
card. So they definitely need this win. I'm going to take the Commanders. I'm going to say by 4. I'm going to go like maybe to a 21-17 ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you the same way. I think that this is just a Commanders game that they need to win, and that they're gonna do that. Daniels just looks like the rookie of the year frontline leader, and he continues to get better. So I think that they're gonna win this game as well, and I say by 6 points. So
There you
whatever
go.
that scores end up being, but I think that the Commanders will take a good lead and not look back on this game.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that is awesome. That is it for another episode of your favorite couch potatoes. We no college games, no playoff games yet. Your Ducks will kick off in what, just 3 days, right? New Year's Day, Rose Bowl, baby. And I think we have a New Year's Eve game. So definitely going to recap those and some other bowl games that have happened next week. But thank you for joining us this week for an all NFL episode. Make sure to catch the episodes dropping every Thursday on YouTube and Spotify, and then check out all the clips on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, help grow the show. Let us know what we can do better. If we missed anything, or if you have any thoughts or questions. So thank you for joining us, and we will catch you next time on the couch. See ya.